Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered, where did that spark go? Not just the energy in your step, but the warmth in your connection. The truth is, for many men over 60, the change begins quietly. Colder hands, slower mornings, and eventually moments of closeness that feel more distant than they should. They call it aging. But what if it's something else? Something simple, something fixable. I'm Dr. Miller, and after 3 decades of helping men reclaim their vitality, I can tell you what's happening inside your body may not be about age at all. Today we're exploring one overlooked reason why intimacy fades and circulation weakens, and how a surprisingly familiar item from your kitchen could help shift things in a powerful new direction. No complicated formulas, no gimmicks, just practical, clear guidance you can actually use. So if you've been feeling less like yourself lately, I invite you to stay with me. Because in just a moment, I'm going to share a gentle, safe method that's quietly helped thousands of men feel more alive again. Ready to take the first step back toward connection? Let's begin. 1. The common problem in men over 60. Have you ever felt like you're slowly slipping away from the man you used to be, but you can't quite put your finger on why? Not sick, not in pain, just not yourself. Anna, that's exactly how Harold felt. A retired mechanic, 67 years old, married for nearly 4 decades. To most, his life looked peaceful, afternoons tending the garden, evenings watching old westerns. But something quiet and invisible was stealing more than his energy. It was stealing his presence. It started with cold feet even in July. Then came the fatigue and intimacy. That became something he avoided, not because he didn't care, but because it no longer felt natural. He described it not as physical pain, but as a loss of identity. "I don't feel like a man anymore," he admitted during a checkup. And that broke my heart, because what Harold was facing is something far too many men over 60 silently endure: poor blood circulation. You see, this isn't just about cold hands or getting winded on a flight of stairs. It's about the very foundation of vitality. As we age, our blood vessels become less elastic. The arteries stiffen, the heart works harder, and the blood doesn't flow as easily. The smallest vessels, the ones that support our skin, our muscles, our most intimate moments, begin to narrow like clogged plumbing in an old house. Slowly they shut down, and with them, so does a part of us. This change doesn't crash in overnight. It sneaks in like fog, dimming the brightness of life little by little. You stop initiating affection because you don't feel like yourself. You start avoiding physical touch because it doesn't feel like it once did. And the worst part? No one talks about it. You're told it's just age. You're told to accept it. But let me be clear. This decline is common, but it is not inevitable. Your body is capable of more than you think, even now. There are ways to awaken your blood vessels again, to revive your energy, and to restore the sense of manhood that you thought was slipping away. And surprisingly, one of the simplest tools for doing this isn't a prescription drug or some expensive treatment. It's something sitting in your kitchen right now: baking soda. Yes, that humble box of powder tucked behind the spices might be one of your greatest allies. When used properly, it can help reduce acidity in the body, improve circulation, and even support vascular health at the cellular level. It's not magic, it's not a cure-all, but it's a small step that can signal your body to start healing. And sometimes that small step is what begins the journey back to feeling alive again. Because here's the truth: you are not your symptoms, you are not your diagnosis, and you are certainly not defined by this quiet fading. If you've been nodding your head, feeling seen, maybe even a little emotional, that's good. That means you're ready to take back what time tried to dull, ready to feel again, to move again, to live again, not just exist. If that speaks to you, just type the number 1 in the comments. It's not for me, it's for you. It's your way of saying, I'm still here, I'm not done yet. Now let's take this one step further. Let's explore the quiet, natural shift that can make a world of difference, starting with something as simple and surprising as baking soda. Ready? Let's move to the next insight. 2. The consequences of poor circulation. I still remember the day Martin sat across from me, silent for a long moment before finally speaking. He was 72, always sharply dressed, the kind of man who stood tall even in life's storms. But that afternoon, his shoulders were heavy with something deeper than age. His voice cracked when he said, "I don't feel like myself anymore, like the man I used to be." On the surface, nothing seemed wrong. His heart sounded steady. His blood pressure wasn't alarming. But there was a quiet breakdown happening inside him, and it was rooted in something most men overlook until it's too late: poor circulation. This isn't just about cold fingers or tired legs. When your blood isn't flowing the way it should, it's like watching the lights dim throughout a house. First, your energy fades. Then your sleep feels shallow. Then something more personal starts to change. You don't respond the same way when your partner reaches for you. You pull back instead of leaning in. Not because you don't care, but because something deeper has quietly shifted. You feel a growing distance in moments that used to feel close. That kind of silence and intimacy doesn't just come from the body. It seeps into the mind. You begin to question yourself, your worth, your ability to show love in the way you used to. And slowly, confidence unravels. What Martin was feeling wasn't weakness. It was a signal, a whisper from within that something needed attention. The root of it all lies in something called endothelial function. That's the health of the inner lining of your blood vessels. When that lining is damaged by age, diet, stress, or inactivity, it stops producing enough nitric oxide. And that one change starts a cascade. Without nitric oxide, your vessels don't relax. Blood doesn't move freely, and it's the smallest vessels that suffer first. The ones responsible for warmth in your hands, memory in your brain, and yes, responsiveness and intimacy in the bedroom. At first, it might just feel like mild fatigue, a little less drive, but over time it becomes more than that. It can be a warning sign of deeper vascular issues, a higher risk of stroke, blood pressure that slowly creeps upward, and eventually it can show up in ways that leave men feeling isolated and uncertain, even when surrounded by love. The most painful part is that many men don't realize the seriousness of poor circulation until it's taken something from them. Not in one sharp moment, but in a series of small ones they didn't see coming. But here's the beautiful truth I want you to hold on to. Your body is designed to heal. Blood vessels can become flexible again. Nitric oxide production can rise. And this healing doesn't have to come from pills with side effects that make you feel worse instead of better. Nature has its own answers, often hidden in plain sight. And one of those answers might already be sitting quietly in your kitchen: baking soda. Now, I know that might sound too simple, but when used correctly, baking soda has the potential to help your body regain balance from the inside out. It supports the environment your blood vessels need to repair. It helps reduce hidden acidity that damages your endothelial function. And it can be part of a greater shift back toward feeling strong, vibrant, and connected again. The stories I've heard from older men who gave this approach a chance are some of the most moving I've witnessed. One man told me, "I thought that part of my life was over, but it's not. I feel like I've come back to myself." That's the power of knowledge, care, and a willingness to try something new. You're not too old, it's not too late, and you haven't missed your chance. So let's take the next step. Let's explore exactly how baking soda can be used in a way that supports your circulation and restores something precious, your sense of connection, both to your partner and to yourself. 3. Baking soda, a simple solution. When Raymond walked into my office, he was carrying more than just years of experience. At 67, this quiet, thoughtful man had spent his life teaching others. Yet now he sat before me, feeling like he had no answers for his own body. "I've tried everything," he said with a weary sigh. "Supplements, prescriptions, even those strange devices they advertise late at night. Nothing sticks. I feel like I'm chasing shadows." His fatigue ran deeper than physical. It was the kind that settles into your spirit when hope begins to fade. So I asked him a question that made him pause. "Do you have any baking soda in your kitchen?" His eyebrows lifted. "You mean for cookies?" I nodded. "Yes, but it might be for something far more meaningful than cookies." Most people think of baking soda as a kitchen helper, something that belongs in the back of a pantry or in a forgotten corner of the fridge. But what many don't realize is that this simple white powder, sodium bicarbonate, can offer gentle yet powerful support to the very system most men begin to struggle with as they age. Circulation. It's not a miracle. It's not a shortcut. But when used properly, it can make a difference. Here's why. As we grow older, our bodies naturally drift toward a more acidic state. This happens for many reasons. Diet high in processed food, long-term stress, less movement, and declining kidney function. That shift in internal pH may sound harmless, but in reality, it can tighten our blood vessels and limit the amount of oxygen reaching our tissues. The result? Cold hands, tired legs, a heavy heart, and a quiet erosion of energy, intimacy, and confidence. But when you take a small amount of baking soda mixed with water at the right time, it gently helps neutralize that excess acidity. It's like easing the pressure inside a garden hose. Suddenly the flow returns. What happens next is often subtle but deeply meaningful. Men like Raymond have told me they feel warmer in the mornings, that the stiffness in their legs eases a little, that something they hadn't felt in a long time, a flicker of interest, a spark of vitality, starts to return. It's not about becoming 20 again. It's about remembering that you are still here, still alive, still capable of connecting deeply and fully with your body and the people you love. Of course, baking soda is not a cure-all. It will never replace movement, good food, rest, or love. But for many, it has been the beginning of a turnaround. The first small step that says, I'm not giving up on myself. Once the body is supported properly, it often surprises you. It starts to respond. It starts to repair. And sometimes that change begins with something as humble as what's sitting in a kitchen drawer. But I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't speak plainly. This is not something to guess at. What can be helpful in the right amount can become harmful if misused. Too much baking soda, or taken at the wrong time, can put stress on your kidneys, upset your digestion, or raise your blood pressure. That's why it's so important to approach it with care, understanding, and guidance. Don't rush into it. Don't wing it. So before you open that box and stir it into a glass of water, let's take a moment to learn how to use it the right way. Let me walk with you through the safe approach so you can get the benefits without the setbacks. This is your health, your heart, your future. You deserve to do it right, and now let's explore how to do exactly that. 4. Using it the wrong way. Let me speak from the heart for a moment. I've watched baking soda breathe life back into men who thought their best days were behind them. I've seen eyes light up again, voices regain strength, and relationships grow warmer. But I've also seen what happens when hope turns into haste, when something simple and promising gets misused and the body ends up paying the price. That's why this part of the journey matters so much. Take Gregory, for example, a 70-year-old grandfather with a laugh that could fill a room and a swing that still kept him competitive on the golf course. He came across an article online that talked about the benefits of baking soda for circulation. Inspired and eager, he began taking a teaspoon every morning and again before bed. He didn't ask his doctor. He didn't check his blood pressure. He simply thought, if a little helps, more must be better. Within days, things changed. His stomach felt tight. His ankles began to swell. One morning, he woke up with his heart racing and his head cloudy. His daughter rushed him to the emergency room. It turned out Gregory's blood pressure had surged. His kidneys, already working a little harder with age, were overwhelmed by the sudden load of sodium his body wasn't prepared for. It wasn't baking soda that hurt him. It was using it without understanding how it works. You see, baking soda isn't a casual supplement. It affects your body's chemistry in very real ways. It interacts with your pH balance, your hydration, your sodium levels. At this stage of life, those systems aren't as forgiving as they once were, especially if you're on medication for blood pressure, if your kidneys are under strain, or if you're simply unaware of how tightly your body's balance is being held. One misstep, even from something natural, can ripple through your system like a stone dropped in still water. That's why I say this with so much care. You deserve to feel better, stronger, more connected to the man you truly are. But that road can't be rushed. It must be walked with attention and intention. The truth is, the risks are not inevitable. They are completely avoidable if you choose to work with your body instead of guessing at it. It doesn't mean never using baking soda. It means understanding how to use it wisely. That means knowing the right time of day to take it. It means not taking it too close to meals or medications that might interfere. It means mixing it with enough water to support your kidneys and not adding more than your body can comfortably process. It means starting small, listening closely to how you feel, and being willing to ask questions instead of chasing results. I tell my patients this often. Just because something is natural doesn't mean it's safe in every amount. Think of water. It's essential to life, yet even water in excess can be dangerous. The same is true here. Baking soda can gently support your body's return to balance, but only when you treat it with the respect it deserves. If you've stayed with me this far, I know what kind of person you are. You're not after a quick fix. You're seeking something real, something that will last, something that helps you feel like yourself again. So let's take the next step together. In just a moment, I'll show you exactly how I guide my own patients through this process. You'll learn the safe timing, the proper dosage, and one small but powerful trick that makes all the difference. Because healing isn't just about knowing what to do, it's about knowing how to do it right. And you're ready? Let's begin. Son, how to use it safely. When I bring up baking soda with my older patients, the question always comes quickly, often with a curious smile and a raised brow. All right, so how exactly do I use it? And that's the right place to begin. Because as you now know, the real power of the simple solution isn't just in what it is, but in how it's used. The difference between gentle support and unintended harm lies entirely in the details. For most healthy men over 60 who are not on any serious medications, the best place to start is simple. Just 1/4 of a teaspoon, not a heaping spoonful, not a splash and guess. A level 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda stirred into a full glass of water, and timing matters. Take it in the morning, before breakfast, on an empty stomach. That small window gives your body the best chance to absorb the benefit without the interference of food or digestion. Not before bed, not with a heavy meal, just once a day, right at the start. Now I know that might sound too small to matter, but in the world of circulation, acidity, and aging chemistry, small is powerful, small is smart. One of my patients, Leonard, age 74, came to me frustrated. He wasn't in pain, but his energy dipped every afternoon. His hands were always cold. Short walks left him winded. We began with this gentle routine, just that 1/4 teaspoon each morning, no changes to anything else. And after 3 weeks, he sat across from me and said, "Something's shifting, I'm clearer, my steps feel steadier, and I actually feel warm again." That's what happens when the body begins to receive what it needs in a way it can actually use. But here's a secret most people overlook. The effectiveness of baking soda is directly tied to hydration. Your blood cannot flow freely if it's thick from dehydration. Your organs, especially the ones responsible for intimacy and energy, rely on consistent fluid to do their job well. So don't stop at that 1 glass. Drink water steadily throughout the day, not just when you're thirsty, but as a daily act of care. Think of your bloodstream like a river. When the water runs deep and clean, everything it touches thrives. And please, if you take medication for blood pressure, heart rhythm, or kidney function, speak to your doctor before adding anything to your routine. This isn't about fear. It's about honoring the body you've lived in for over 6 decades. You wouldn't throw a new chemical into an engine without checking the manual, right? Your body deserves the same attention, not because it's fragile, but because it's valuable. You've carried this body through years of work, love, struggle, and growth. Let's give it the care it has earned. The truth is, most men at this stage of life don't need a miracle. They just need something that works. One daily action that reminds them they still have power. One shift that says, "You're not too far gone. You're not fading. You're still here." And often it's that very first small success that brings the confidence to take on more. That 1/4 teaspoon, that glass of water, that daily moment of commitment, it's more than just a health step. It's a signal to your body that you're showing up for it again. And if all of this is making you feel hopeful, stay with me. Because in the next part, I'm going to share the story of a 76-year-old man who followed this exact method, then made one tiny addition that transformed everything. What happened next may surprise you, but it might also inspire the next step in your own journey. There's a man I'll never forget. His name was Frank, 76 years old, gentle and reserved. He wasn't searching for a miracle, just a way to feel a little more like himself again. More warmth in his hands, more peace in his sleep, more life in his quiet moments. We began with the same routine I shared with you. A small glass in the morning, steady hydration, listening to the body's signals. But what made the real difference for Frank was something simple yet powerful. He stayed consistent, patient, respectful of the process. And over time, something beautiful began to return. His presence, his confidence, and even his hope for love. What we've talked about today may seem small, but small things done with care can change everything. This isn't about chasing youth. It's about reclaiming connection with your body, your energy, and the people who matter most. If anything in this video spoke to you, I invite you to type "feel again" in the comments. And if you'd like to keep receiving thoughtful, empowering health tips that truly support you, consider subscribing and turning on notifications. You deserve to feel strong, alive, and connected again, because your story isn't over. And the next chapter, it just might surprise you.